When you think about what does your ideal life look like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? How do you want to feel? Where do you want to go? How do you want to show up in this world, right? There has to be a level of alignment with the things that you say yes to. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Financial Freedom Fastlane. And remember, the quicker you get to your dream life, the longer you get to live it. And I'm your host, George Ashenpong. And I hope y'all caught that. Right? I put a lot of thought into that. Financial Freedom Fastlane, quicker you get to your... hopefully you caught it, right? But anyways, if you didn't, now you know. But welcome back to another episode. And so, today, I'm always about, building wealth and investing and all that good stuff, right? But sometimes the metrics when it comes to, anything that you decide in life is not just always based upon ROI, right? Return on investment. Sometimes it's based upon return on time. Sometimes it's based upon return on energy. Sometimes it's based upon these qualitative metrics that don't have anything to explicitly do with just money. So we're going to talk about some of those today, so that way you guys can have a more well-rounded approach to what you say yes to, because a no is a no, right? If you say, no, I'm not doing this, a no is a no. But when you say yes to something, it comes with a whole host of things that you may or may not have anticipated. Because when you say no, nothing changes. Even if you say no to something that could have yielded some great results in your life, right? You'll never know, and nothing about your current life is going to change. So essentially from that point, nothing changes. But when you say yes to something, right, it can change a lot. And sometimes it can change a lot for the better. Sometimes it can change a lot for the worse. So it's very important to make sure you have a very well-rounded perspective when you're thinking about what you want to invest in. All right. So when you are deciding a new project, a new investment, or something that you want to take on, typically the first thing people are going to think about is like, well, how much am I going to make from this? How much profit? Like, is this a good decision financially? But I want to share some other things that you got to factor in when it comes to making these decisions. And they're all rooted in alignment. So the first one is lifestyle alignment, right? So when you're thinking about a new business that you want to start or a new investment opportunity that you want to take advantage of, you got to ask yourself, does it actually align with your desired or ideal lifestyle, right? Because you might see somebody who manages a large portfolio of multifamily real estate investments, right? And you might like the look of that from the outside looking in. But without the proper context, that potentially could not align with your ideal lifestyle. What if you like to live your life as a digital nomad and you want to travel all over the world? You never want to be stationary in one place. If you have properties all over the place, right? Now, granted, again, you could put the proper infrastructure in place and maybe you have property managers and all sorts of stuff. But there's probably going to be a lot that comes with that you need to just quantify if it aligns with the way that you want to live your life. And I'm not saying that it can't, right? So you gotta ask yourself, do I really love this investment, right? Do I love the ROI about this investment? And if so, is there a way for me to still take on this investment and it align with my lifestyle? Because sometimes what you gotta realize is that maybe it can eventually, but in the beginning, it might require some additional work, some additional effort, some different things you gotta factor in order to be able to create that lifestyle alignment, right? So just make sure that you truly understand everything that comes with the investment or the business that you want to start to determine if it makes sense. Because sometimes people start something and they're starting based upon the outcome. They're starting based upon the result. They're not starting it thinking about all the nuances of what it takes to deliver. And to your defense, it's kind of hard to, right? Because how would you know? What's the little meme? Nobody's going to know, the little Reels audio. Like, how would you know? But a way that you can at least mitigate some of it is by finding someone who's in the space, asking them questions, right? Does their actual lifestyle align with the success that they're getting? Because sometimes people will tell you like, I wouldn't advise that you do this. I'm already in the weeds of it now. I've been doing it for so long. It is what it is. But unless you want to have this type of lifestyle, I wouldn't advise it. Like somebody might say, I want to start the next Facebook, but they don't realize they have the context to how much time Jeff Bezos is in court, right? Or maybe how the stress or the weight that he's carrying in that position. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just using him as an example. He might love what he does. It might be perfect lifestyle alignment. And you might say something like, oh, boo hoo, rich people problems. But you don't see that sounds good until you have those problems. Right. And I'm speaking from experience, right? Like I'm going through something similar right now where it's just like, it ultimately does align, but I'm in the midst of some growing pains where I'm realizing in real time the gravity of what it takes to achieve the success I want to achieve. Now that I know that, I still want to achieve those feats, but I'm learning real time that it comes with way more than I originally bargained for. And it would have been nice, right, naturally, to have some more context to that going into it. Some of the things that mitigate that are having mentors, having people that have done it before, asking the right questions. But of course, sometimes you just got to go through it. Sometimes it just is what it is. And the real testament is, once you know that, if something no longer does align, are you willing to unravel that, right, based upon the new truth that you have, right? So that's number one, lifestyle alignment. Does this new thing, investment, business, whatever it might be, does it have lifestyle alignment? All right, the second one is risk alignment, right? Does this particular investment align with my risk profile? Because here's the thing, you could see something that has the potential for a lot of gain, right? So like venture capital probably has the most upside potential because you're literally betting on something that is unproven. And if it works, you could win big. You can win really big. We've all seen the memes and the tweets and the whatever. If you would have invested 5,000 in Uber, it would have turned to 5 million or whatever the metrics are, right? Don't quote me on that particular number, but you could have invested a little and it could have turned into a lot, right? The challenge with something like venture capital is that for every one winner, there are 10 losers, and you just hope that the one winner outperforms so well that it basically takes care of the nine losses, right? And so you got to have the risk appetite for that, or even just in the stock market, right? It's like you can invest in a company that has the potential for high growth, but has a ton of volatility. Question is, can you stomach that, right? And that's why people take risk tolerance assessments, because your risk tolerance profile will tell you, is this a investment that I actually have the tolerance for the potential ebbs and flows or volatility that this investment could experience, right? Because just because something can have a great return, like you could be stressed out the whole time owning the asset if it's outside of the risk tolerance that you have. So you got to ask yourself, do you have the stomach for it, right? Do you have the stomach for it? Sometimes people see my returns on some of my portfolios and like, oh man, I want that. But they don't see, right? In some cases, I'm net positive and have performed really, really well. Down, a matter of fact, I'm gonna send you a graphic to insert just to show people how well. But it doesn't mean that doesn't come with some volatility. Now, volatility is the price you pay for great investment returns. But at the same token, everybody doesn't have the stomach for certain levels of volatility. So you have to ask yourself, just because this has a great potential return, if I'm going to be stressed the whole time investing this, is it worth it? Because investing is supposed to be something passive in most cases, right? Or at least relatively passive relative to what you do for a living. And if you're more stressed or equally as stressed with this investment as you are with your job or your business, then that's a qualitative metric that might not be worth it when you can invest in something that aligns a little bit more with your risk appetite. So ask yourself, is there risk alignment? So in order to know that, you have to ask the right questions and do your own due diligence. And I actually will do an episode on due diligence so that you can use that as a general framework, not specifically for investing in the stock market or in general, but like a general framework on how to at least approach risk when you're starting a new potential business venture or you are starting to invest, right? So do you have risk alignment with this thing that you're about to start? Number 3 is one of my personal favorites, probably my personal Achilles heel, right? Do you have capacity and time alignment with this particular investment or business opportunity, right? Because everybody wants the profits. Everybody wants the money. Everybody wants the success until you realize that you're recording this video at 12:04 a.m. Now, truth be told, I'm recording this video at 12:04 a.m. because I normally get these videos recorded like pretty close to real time when it gets posted. But I just want to be ahead. So I went ahead and took advantage of this and got it done like, a week before it's due. But there are many instances that the reason why I'm recording the videos at last minute is because I got so much going on. But I've committed that this video is going to release every week. And once I commit to something, it is what it is. It doesn't matter whether it's rain, sleet, snow, hail, got robbed out of the country. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Sickness. If I say that I'm going to do it, it's going to happen. And that's just a standard that you have to set for yourself. That's a standard of excellence, right? If you're a big fan of a certain show, you think that there's been situations where someone from the leading cast was under the weather or didn't want to record or was tired or was frustrated, had a family member pass away, or right? Life happens to everybody. Just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean life doesn't happen to you. In fact, life probably happens to you more because not only are you dealing with your own stuff, now you're dealing with the pressure of the expectations that everybody has on you because they count in your pockets. Another podcast or another episode for another day, right? But once you commit, you commit. So you got to ask yourself, and you got to start to understand, and you're never going to get this perfect, but you got to at least do some level of due diligence and thought to figure out, does this thing align with the capacity and time that I want to put into it? Does it align with the capacity and timing that I have, regardless of what effort you want to put into it? If you have a 18-month-old son like I do, or if you have a spouse and significant other, or you have family members or friends or just other people or things that are pulling on you, or that you want to do. I don't want to say pulling on you as if it's like you don't want to do them, but just responsibilities. Like, you might want to do this thing, but do you realistically have the time and capacity to do it, right? And if it's more of a voluntary thing, is this something that you voluntarily want to commit to? Like, I record 2 shows a week, rain, sleet, or snow, right? 2 shows every single week. And on top of that, I still got to record the short form content that my people like. Granted, this can get chopped up and it's a version of short form content, but it's not the only short form content I have to create. I have a social media manager who she be on me. She be like, yo, I mean, she does it very gracefully, but lets me know that she needs more stuff. Can you imagine creating 2 long form episodes every week, each with at least 3 pieces of micro content from each one of those, right? And you're still not producing enough content? I'm probably producing like 10% of the content that I want to produce, right? Now, mind you, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just, this is what actually comes with the responsibility of what I say I want. It's like people say they want a 6-pack. Okay, great. Well, you got to drink a gallon of water every day. You got to consume a lot more protein, consume a lot less carbs, consume a moderate amount of fats, do this much cardio, get this much sleep. Do you still want the 6-pack? Maybe you do. Most people want the result, right? Most people want the finished product. They don't want the process, is a better way to say it, right? And once you know the process, you got to ask yourself, do I still want the product? All right. So this next one is, does this have status alignment? Now, I'm not one that's really big on status. Like, it kind of like, it is what it is. Like, you will earn your achievements, your recognition based upon the work that you do and what you deserve, right? But when you're putting your time and effort towards anything, and you do have a goal of maybe being the best person in this arena or making this connection, like, this is kind of like a bonus, but like, is there a level of status alignment relative to the person that you want to be in the world, right? I mean, the game is the game, right? And so, like, just ask yourself, like, if by doing this thing, does it get me closer to having some intangibles that get me in the right rooms, that get me in the right relationships and connections, etc. Not to say that this is like a prerequisite, but it is something you might want to consider, right? When you're deciding what to do. It's like, ooh, like, if I do it this way, can this like create a lever, right? Can it create something that I can leverage? And that's just about being strategic. And we can say what we want, but everybody cares a little bit about status on some way. You do. You might want to try to act like you don't, but you do. On some level, everybody cares about that. So if you're going to get into something new and there's a way that you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, nice. I don't think that you should only make decisions predicated upon status, but I do think that there's a way to gain some status, right? That is beneficial to your career path, beneficial to your trajectory. Like, for example, my mom said that yesterday was her birthday as of this recording. So by the time you guys see it, basically a week ago was her birthday. And when I dropped her off before we finished brunch, or after we finished brunch, she was like, I want to meet LeBron James. I want to give him a hug. She let me, son, I want you to make that happen. So you best believe if I can do something to get on LeBron James' radar, right? And now I can leverage that status to get an introduction from my mom. right? Why wouldn't I do that, right? So, things like that. Not a prerequisite, not like a deal breaker, but if you can bake that in to your thought process and you realize there's a lever that you can pull, it only makes sense. All right. And last but not least, energy alignment, right? Energy alignment. Does this thing align with the energy output, right? Or the energy drain that it will cause if you participate in it, right? Because there's some things you can do in life that will make you a lot of money, but it doesn't align from an energy level. And so it probably doesn't make sense to do it, right? So these are things you got to factor in because, again, on paper, something can make a lot of sense, but then there might not be energy alignment. Even like I think about it like a relationship, right? Like there could be someone that's like, oh, this person's dope. Everything on paper lines up. But then when you just get in a room with them or you have a conversation with them, it's like, yo, the energy though, right? Energy is important. It's a part of it. It's a prerequisite. So you got to ask yourself these questions. You have to listen to your intuition. You have to use your power of discernment because sometimes when things make sense on paper, people will ignore it, ignore the energy, man, or your gut feeling or whatever you want to call it. People will ignore it because it made sense on paper. And you'll just regret that on the back end. So I hope that these non-financial, well, most of them outside of risk, metrics for determining if something makes sense, whether it be an investment or a business opportunity, is something that you can start incorporating as a part of your just overall blueprint. Because what I've realized is sometimes everything can make sense on paper, but you can miss some of these other qualitative metrics and it makes for a really not so pleasant outcome. I hope this episode was helpful. Remember, freedom is for sale if you're willing to pay the price. Until next time, guys, peace.